All right, so the first thing that I want to show you is the export to PDF sets. I don't know how many of you have actually done this, but I'm going to go ahead and kind of go through the process. And I've actually kind of cheated a little bit and printed all of Zanesville's, and I have a result list of PDFs that I'll show you at the end because it takes a minute for it to run through 40, 50 drawings, whatever it is. So, but I will walk you through the steps at least. So. If you go to the file menu, and far as I know, this is only Revit 23 and above. I haven't tried it in 22 and below, um, but it might be. I can't remember which version they introduced this in. But underneath the export tab, you have export PDF, and that's where we're gonna kind of live here. You'll see this little dialog box pop up. Now you're gonna see a lot of what I just did for my test. So this usually comes in a little different. All this stuff will be set like to a default. And so but we'll go ahead and go through the things that I changed and how to best save these types of export settings and things like that. Um, so I think what I'll start with, I'll just go right down through this from the top down. The first thing that I would do is I would click this little pencil here, and let's just say that we're just in session. There's all these initial are by default are checked for everything that includes sheets, views, all kinds of things. So when you get in here, you're just going to want to make sure you get in and make sure you're printing, selecting the things that you're actually going to print and not selecting things that you're not. So one of the things that's kind of cool about this is, first of all, I can turn off 3D views and 2D views, so I don't have to worry about sifting through hundreds and hundreds of views. You also notice that I unchecked this originally. I come back and I'll check this just to do my last final check before I hit select and go through the rest of the print directions. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and just select all sheets because I don't know any better, right? So I'm going to go ahead and select them all. Now, you'll notice that they're not in order. Doesn't matter because we're going to fix that in a minute. We can actually, I'll show you this menu here in a second too, but before I do that, I want to show you this preview. So as you're going through, I highly suggest going through here quickly. A few minutes now is going to save you a ton of minutes later. And just going through these guys and making sure that, yeah, okay, yep, that's a sheet that's supposed to get printed. Oh, yep, that's a sheet that's got to get printed. I can come down here to structural and notice there's nothing there. So obviously I don't want that printed. You can go down through here and quickly see very quickly what you actually need to print and what you don't. So I'm just going to pick a couple of these. Like I said, I'll let it run, but I won't show you that particular result because I'll show you the result that had all these. Because like I said, it takes a few minutes for it to finish printing. But you can use that tool to go through here and just make sure. Oh yeah, we don't need that. Let's go down here to this guy. Nope, we don't need that. So you can go down through here and pick and choose. Once you get done with that, before you get out, there's a couple things that you'll want to do. One is hopefully if this is all set up properly from the get-go, you shouldn't ever have to make any of these changes. But if for some reason you have to come in and make manual changes, you can come in and change this to a manual order. You can drag these from here to there, whatever you need to do. The G sheet goes up here. But keep in mind, you won't have to do that. So that's a surprise for later. I'll show you that here in a second. And if you accidentally move them around, you're like, oh, I want to reset it. Just go back to the project browser organization. It'll reset it. Okay. So we'll go ahead and leave it like this. We'll go ahead and cancel it. And what I will do here is I'm actually going to remove a lot of these sheets just so there can be a difference here so I can create a new sheet set. Sheet sets, I think, is what everybody uses when they're using PyRevit. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hide the unchecked and I'm going to save a new set. So I'm going to just call this Eric, just for lack of anything else to write here. All right, so now that sheet set has been set and saved. We can always update it, edit it later, whatever we want to do, duplicate it. But for now, that's going to make it easy to come back to in the next submission if you don't have any other added sheets or if you just need to reprint the set for a check set or whatever. This makes it very quick to recall the sheets and not have to go through it again to pick and select. So I'm going to go ahead and say, yes, I want to save those for a new session so I can bring them up later. So you'll see there's several of them saved in here. This is a perfect example of what I would do: a 65% set, a 75% set, whatever your deliverable summary is. That's kind of what I would put there, so you know exactly what you printed out of that project. So now we'll move into the next part. Now this is where the magic happens. By default, it's set to combine selected views and sheets into a single PDF file. You can still do this if you want, and like I said, use Bluebeam to automatically create page labels and do your sorting there if you want. You can still use that if that's your preferred choice. But what I'm going to show you is something that's a lot simpler and easier to get used to using. So I would highly suggest you use this. I'm going to go ahead and uncheck this, and you'll notice here there's a file name structure here. And by default, I think it's set to views, and there's like 3 views things in here. So you have to empty it out first, okay? Once you empty it out first, then you can change it to the sheets, and you can get the available parameters within REVIT. So you'll see here, I've got sheet order, which is what we all use. Publish order is what we use, with no separator. So it's just a space. The sheet number with a space dash space, and then the sheet name with no separator. Now we can customize this all different ways, but this is pretty much the bare bones of what you'd want to do. I did play around a little bit with one of my tests about having sheet issue dates. We could even do an issued for date 1. I'm still playing around with that part of it to see how accurate and how much extra effort there is, depending on what your nomenclature settings and requirements are for your jurisdictional owner rep. They'll tell you what they got to have. I know for VA, at least for Cheyenne and Fort Harrison, they dictate that we have to have the station number dot building number dot what the discipline, so arch dot, and then 2023-03-03. That is their nomenclature that they require for all their individual sheets, as well as for their or I should say for their Revit files. Their sheets are actually the station number dot, the building number dot, the sheet number dot, and then the date. That's how we have to provide those for the Cheyenne and Fort Harrison as built survey. So this can be set up for many different things, for IHS, for BIA, for whatever needs to happen. You can create these for yourself. But this is the one that I had created for this demonstration. So once I click that OK, I want you to basically, moving down here, they want you to pick a location. So I created a location on my desktop called PDF export. I always leave it to default page size. Come down here to zoom. This is really important. You want to make sure you say 100%, so that you're not relying on, if somebody has the wrong sheet size, that the drawing automatically scales to it. Next thing you know, it's off and you don't notice it until you go back to review, and you can just eliminate all of that issue if you just select this like you see here. Centered is default. That's perfect. Now by default, you'll see this being high. I always put it at presentation, just for my own good. I don't know if high in presentation looks any different, but all this is going to be for like 3D views, images, any of the decals and rendered views. Those obviously can't print as a vector. So they print as a raster image, and it'll tell you as you're printing this at the end that, hey, you have some raster image views in here, and it lists off a few of them. One is if it's got a point cloud in it. One if like the few examples I just shared with you, if any of that stuff is in it, it has to print those as raster. So you won't be able to take measurements off of them in Bluebeam. By default, it's always vector processing, whether you're printing or exporting. And then down here is an interesting set of tools. So one thing that I've always tried to do, just from a pet peeve standpoint, is super suggest everybody make sure that your plan views and your detail views and everything have crop regions turned off. That is mainly for architectural MEP. It's not a bad habit to start, but for architectural, it's super important. And the reason why is because of this guy right here, this hide crop boundaries. those of you that have worked on interior elevations know that we use the crop regions to show the boundaries for each individual interior elevation. So that saves us from having to go through and putting in a bunch of filled regions or masking regions, changing the line type edge, just wasting a bunch of time in that silly, 2D, how do I make it look better scenario. If as architectural, if you just make sure that in every sheet view that you have, that crop region is turned off, then this won't affect any drawings that you print out that shouldn't have a crop region around it. We want to try to get in the habit of this because this will make sure that the interior elevation drawings are printed correctly at the onset. I don't really have much else to say about that. And I'll say, if you guys have questions, try to kind of keep them to the end of each segment that I'm doing here, just so I can stay on track here. But that's pretty much what I do for my setup. And so I would go ahead and click export. Now, this says it's because I haven't gone in here and picked selection of using the current set. Well, of course I did, because I went through and picked them. Oh yeah, they all reset. So let me just pick a few of them, and you'll see what happens, and then I'll show you the full set that I did earlier. We'll go ahead and say yes, and then I'll show you the folder result. So this is the folder result. If you can kind of see here, I don't really understand the nomenclature for this particular project yet, trying to get these in order. But as you can see, it automatically puts your publish order in front of it. You don't have to go back through and re-add it after the fact and try to mess around with all that stuff. All you really have to do at this point now is just go through your sheets and verify that nothing is screwed up. You can review your drawings really quick. You don't have to worry about the nomenclature, the naming, any of that. It's all done for you if it's set up properly. Does anybody have any questions on that? Awesome. I expected at least one by Eric. I'm just throwing him under the bus on that one. So this is a very helpful tool. If you get used to using this, like I said, you don't have any extra stuff to clean up. It's the only thing you might have to fix and clean up is if you notice that your sheet orders or publish orders are wrong. And then if that's the case, then you got to fix it anyway. So, and this will work for both mechanical, electrical, plumbing, architectural, structural, whatever we have to print, it'll work for all of them. If you have any questions, you can always come back to this video, or you can always contact me on the side and I can help refresh your memory on how to do this. But that was the first item.